Hi everyone, I'm Maza. I'm a Lorcana player, a Gundam card player, as well as video games and other board games and stuff. I'm starting to use the channel more now, and this is something I wanted to do for a while. I realized the European Championships were 2 months ago. I was there doing the last chance qualifiers, and then on Sunday in the special revival tournament, and I wanted to share my experience and talk about the decks that I took. I took a little break after the competition, so I didn't end up doing this post-mortem right after, but I still wanted to do it, so here it is. So for in the December event, the Euro Championships, I took the Steelfasa. I love playing Mufasa, both Red Fasa and Steelfasa. I think it's a really versatile deck. I enjoy the mechanic of Mufasa being put out of the board and then having to draw to see what comes out. It's a bit RNG, but I enjoy it nevertheless. As well as there are a lot of options in Amber and Steel in order for us to be able to build these decks in a variety of ways. And that's exactly what I did, as my deck for the LCQ was different from my deck for the revival tournament on Sunday. So without further ado, let's get into it. I don't run my Mufasa decks with 60 characters. I think the for Steelfasa it's very useful to have a few songs because there are always those situations where you really, the only option you have to hit the opponent is basically to have a song. Maybe they have evasive, maybe they aren't exerting their characters, so you actually really need a few songs, and that's exactly what I use. I use 3 storm, 3 strength. I don't use 4/4 in order to minimize the possibility of, for example, hitting Mufasa, hitting a song. And I think this number is perfectly fine, and obviously cutting one of the storms helps with the uninkable count. So these come obviously in handy, and to be able to be sung with Cinderella Ballroom Sensation. I run 4 of these. This is an amazing card, one of the best cards in Amber. I usually, between this and the daisies that I'm gonna show, I decide which one I play, depending obviously if I have it in my hand, but also depending if I go first or second, and depending if I already know what my opponent is playing, which sometimes isn't the case, right? In France I played against a lot of Steel Song in the LCQ, and whenever I went first, it was really important to be able to establish the Cinderella so that I could immediately counter their Cinderella or their Robin Hood or whatever else they put on the table, in order to be able to immediately sing a song, right? So 4 Cinderellas, 3 daisies. Why just 3 daisies and not 4? First, an inkable count. Second, there are a lot of decks where I actually don't want to use Daisy. For example, Green Purple was very popular 2 months ago, and not just very popular, but people were still figuring out how to play it, but also how to counter it. It's one of the decks where you can't really like give them cards. There are a few like that. So I didn't actually want 4 daisies. I didn't want to see Daisy all the time. I wanted to see her slightly less. And in case of the games where I didn't want her questing to give characters to my opponent, it's one less card I have to worry about. Moving on, I have 2 Robin, Beloved Outlaw. This pairs with the shift line of the Robin, Champion of Sherwood. Again, I'm not running 4 Champions of Sherwood. And this is a card that a lot of the time with just 2 willpower he's gonna get hit with something, as people try to avoid the shift line being played. So I'm just running 2 of them. Next up we have 3 Lilos, Escape Artist, a set 6 card, Azeroth Sea. At the time of the European Championships, it was the first major tournament. There was a lot of unknowns. people didn't really know exactly which cards were awesome, which weren't, and exactly if there were any new meta breaking decks that are going to show up. Lila was one of those cards that everyone was raving about and wanted to try out. I have to say, it's not really my play style. I used her a few times, but the fact that she comes in exerted isn't really great for me. I found myself not really playing her a lot, so I was gonna change this for the revival tournament, as you'll see later. Next, 2 piglets. In hindsight, I should have taken more than 2. These are signed by Grace Strand, the artist. She was there in Paris doing signatures together with Cesar Vergara and Nicholas Cole, and I got autographed cards from all of them. 3 Calhoun, at the time, again, recent set 6 card, great card, because a lot of times it immediately stops your opponent in their tracks unless they can deal with it. They don't want to exert their characters if Calhoun can come in and gain 2 lore by banishing one of their characters. I really saw that effect on my opponents. Great card, an inkable though, so which is a problem sometimes. We have 3 Smees, not 4 because I was running out of space in the deck. I wanted to have 60 cards. I didn't want 61 or 62, so I ended up cutting 1 Smee, especially because I only had 2 piglets, which are the captain card that can stop him from being damaged. Now, 2 Balus. This is a great card that came in clutch in the Friday LCQs, and I decided then for the revival to even double down, as you'll see later. This card not only helps protect some of your characters, but it also, because when it's banished, it gets you 2 lore. I used it a lot to force my opponents to give me lore in order to basically clinch the win as the last few points of lore that I needed, or make their trades and what they were trying to do to my board really costly for them, as it continued to advance my victory condition of the 20 lore. I have 3 docks for the ramp, also 3 willpower so it doesn't get hit with fire the cannons or baboom, and if it gets hit it doesn't die, and quests for 2. 3 Gaston, and then inkable obviously is a problem. Gaston is a great card, but in this current situation, even 2 months ago and especially now, I did find that I didn't need all this ramp. You know, this Steelfasa deck is much more aggro, it's much faster, and so much ramp with 3 Gastons and 3 docks was really overkill. 2 Lawrences. Again, this is actually a card that I had never used before. I only included 2 of them, but it's an amazing card. Also great target for Rapunzel to heal as well. I used 3 Pits. In hindsight, I should have used 4. I played against a lot of Steel Song. And then Green Steel in the final of the LCQ, which I unfortunately lost. And I really missed that 4th pit sometimes, and I wish I could have taken the 4th pit, but everyone knows what this card does. It stops the opponent from playing actions. Amazing card that can lock down a game for you. Next, a major staple of December decks, of course, we have 4 Rapunzels, here signed in double gold and black by Grace Strand, the artist. They look amazing, and everyone also knows what Rapunzel does, obviously. More and more people are actually trying to play around it and not give us the card draw, so this is something I would rectify and correct for the revival tournament. I took 1 single key, the Protector of Atlantis, in case I needed to like that extra turn for my opponent to be unable to damage me and for me to clinch the game in the following turn. Inspired by Brennan DiCandio's use of the card, but I actually found I didn't really use her. She was always ink. We have 3 Mufasas. I'm not playing for Mufasas. Why? I wasn't playing for Mufasas. Because Mufasa, contrary to a lot of people that use him and don't know how to really use him and think it's just popping him on the board and relying on RNG, Mufasa is a slower card, and it's getting slower each set because as the game gets faster. So Mufasa is really a card that you want to play if you're playing against a Ruby decks with a lot of banishers, or even against Steel. Even though I played against a lot of Steel Song, I needed to be faster and more aggressive. And more often than not, actually Mufasa, even though he's the inspiration for the deck, was Ink. But it's still a card I enjoy, and I'm playing 3 of. Have 2 Chenpos, again a card that I hadn't really used that much before. Awesome card, as most people know, that a bodyguard with that 7 willpower really comes in handy, although it can have its drawbacks, as I will explain for the Revival Tournament section of this video. 3 Robin Champion of Sherwood, again with I know Medusa wasn't as popular and still isn't as popular. A lot of people have switched to Tremaine, have gone back and forth. I didn't want to have 4 Robins, as I wanted extra space for 1 big Cindy instead of 2. But we'll get there. A lot of people usually run like 4 Shenpos. I actually wanted to run the Hercules card. So it's like I have 4 of the big bodyguards except 2 Shenpos and 2 Hercules. This ended up being a win more card because I was already well on my way to winning the game whenever I popped him. Otherwise he was Ink. But it's a really tough character for them to deal with because it's a 6/6 with the resist and quests for 2, while Shenpo only quests for 1. So it's a very useful card, very powerful card, and usually people underestimate this card, and I saw my opponents having a lot of difficulty dealing with it. A big classic and one of my favorite cards in Lorcana, the Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, of course. Everyone knows what this card does. During testing for the event, I was actually running the 4-cost Tinkerbell, the Amber one, which lets you search for a character, and then I would search for this one and then plop it with the shift line. But it's still an amazing card, gives one damage to everything on the board, can ping 2 damage to another character if she challenges, quests for 2, and it's just an amazing card and very, very useful. And finally, I have 3 big Cindy's. Cinderella Stout-Hearted, again a very hard card for opponents to deal with, very useful for the shift line with the small Cindy, Ballroom Sensation, quests for 3, that's big, resist 2, and whenever I sang a song I could attack a ready character, which could come in useful against, for example, ward characters. So I played against so in round 1 my opponent didn't show up, and then I played against a lot of I played against a lot of Steel Songs, and then in the final of the LCQ I was matched with Green Steel, which unfortunately didn't go well for me, as it's a bad matchup for this kind of deck, and I had bad draws, and my opponent had like the perfect hand in one game and the near perfect hand in another game. So it was really hard. It was a good run. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to the Euros. But the losers of those LCQ finals got invited to do a special Revival tournament on Sunday, together with the people that didn't qualify for day 2 of the actual European Championship. And based on my experience and what I saw people playing over at the LCQs and in day 1 of the tournament, I decided to change the deck. So I did the following changes, which actually went really well. I placed 12th overall. I had like 30 or 31 points, something like that. Really fun tournament, really chill, a lot of cool people there. And I actually played out of the 9 rounds I played against 4 green purples, which is actually very surprising. And in that particular instance of playing against those decks, I will elaborate on why Shenpos were actually functioning as a hindrance instead of an advantage. So for the revival tournament, I took out one of the Cindy's. I was only running 2 Cindy's as I wanted my deck to be even faster and more aggressive. I was still running the 3 Tinkerbells. I took out the Hercules entirely, and in place of the Hercules I placed 2 Gantus, another new set 6 card, and the Gantus were amazing. Because even though he only has 3 willpower, if the opponent really doesn't have anything that can deal with him, you're questing for 4. And it immediately puts the pressure on the opponent, and the opponent absolutely cannot ignore the fact that you put the Gantu on the field. And there were matches where I even had like both Gantus on the field and quested for 10 in a single turn, which was nice. Really cool card. Still on the 3 Robins Champion of Sherwood. In terms of the Shimpos, I decided to bring an extra one because I had removed the Hercules. And my issue with playing so many green purples is that even though I knew the risks, sometimes it was unavoidable, and I got hit with a Gogo Tomago on the Shinpo, which lost me games. In 4 rounds against green purple, I won 1, lost 1, and drew the other 2. And usually the majority of the matches that I lost was because my opponent finished with a Gogo Tomago on something. Another game was Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood, for example. So it was really tough to deal with that, as I thought I was. Sometimes I thought I was safe, but obviously the green purple has a lot of tools, and there were great players there. Still on the 3 Mufasas, I took out the Kida completely. I decided not to run it on the revival tournament. 4 Rapunzels, obviously. Then, as I noticed in my experience in the LCQ, I wanted a 4th Pete, so that's exactly what I did. Even though I ended up only playing against 1 Steel Song, I think. But there were a lot of Steel decks there as well, like Amethyst Steel, which I beat 2-0. I added 1 Lawrence to bring the number up to 3 Lawrences. Great card, probably should have ran 4. I took out the 3 Gastons, so that helped with the ninkable count a lot as well. And it helped me to do this, which was bring 4 Baloos, and I can't underestimate the fact that this was really useful, and I won a lot of games because of the lore that the Baloos kept accumulating, or the fact that my opponents couldn't really stop me from winning the game because these guys gave 2 lore whenever they died. They are very easy to kill, but they are really hard to handle because of that. So they came in clutch, won me a lot of matches due to that constant lore ticking in, even though I might have bore the disadvantage. Still on the 3 docks, and that was the ramp, all the ramp I needed, as I didn't need that much. So again, I had 3 Smees in the LCQ, and I took the 4th Smee, so basically more 4 of the good cards, obviously. Because of the Ninkables and the Baloos and the card count, I ended up taking out 1 Calhoun. I took 2, and they were more than enough, and they did the job, and stopping players and making the players afraid of the card, basically. 1 big add, and that was the reason I also took out 1 of the Calhouns, was that I added 2 docks, Bold Knight. When you play this character, you may discard your hand to draw 2 cards, and I didn't want to put the entire pressure of card draw on Rapunzel, and this came really handy as more and more people learn how to play around Rapunzel. So this great card. I don't want to run 4 of these, maybe 3, but these came really in handy. And I added 1 Piglet, so 3 Piglets for the revival tournament. Again, great card, came in really handy if opponents didn't deal with it. I usually play it on first turn, it's like Cindy Ballroom or Daisy, second turn is this, and then in the third turn, if Piglet hasn't been killed, he quests for 3. Again, I didn't find much usefulness for Lilo, so I didn't play her, and the rest of the deck is the same, right? 2 Robins, 3 Daisies, and 4 Cindy's, and 3 each of the songs. So my experience in the Revival tournament was really positive, lots of really cool people. The deck worked even better. If you ask me if with these changes in the deck that I took on Sunday I would have been able to win the final against Green Steel on Friday, I don't know. It would have given me more chances for sure, but when you're playing against Green Steel and he sees like 3 Diablos in the first 6 turns and he has the perfect starting hand and you don't, on top of that, and you can't establish Cindy, ballroom sensation at the start in order to gain some sort of board control and kill his first Diablo and stuff like that, becomes really hard. Green Steel is definitely one of the worst matchups this deck can have, and that was, I really felt it there. Ravensburger, unfortunately, they sort of didn't calculate the times correctly, so a lot of the people that were playing in the final in the morning LCQ were running into and were also qualified for the afternoon LCQ. They had the ticket. They were running overtime, so I lost the final of the morning LCQ, and I was already like 15 minutes, I think, or 20 minutes late for the start of the afternoon LCQ. Ravensburger did recognize this stuff and let players actually go there and play. My opponent was still waiting at the table. He was using a Sapphire Steel. Unfortunately, I had a friend help me. Flip, he came in clutch. He was my bro during the entire weekend. Great hanging out with him and the rest of the guys of the RIP Bucky team. We also I didn't even have time to store the cards. I didn't have time to reset my brain from the loss. Immediately went into the game and lost that first round of the afternoon LCQ as well. I was totally focused, made a lot of mistakes, and my opponent also played well. So yeah. I think my opponent was Buona Notte. I'm not Buona Serra. I think it's Buona Serra. The player that was also in the Lorcana Cross Continental Challenge organized by Pavel from Pixelborn. Cool guy. Enjoyed playing against him. I think he didn't make the Euro, but it was a nice game. Yeah, and this is sort of the post-mortem of that tournament. I know it's been 2 months. I really wanted to get this out of my chest. For me it was a great weekend. I had a lot of fun. Signed cards like the Piglets and the Rapunzels that Flip actually stood on the line for 2 hours in order to get me these because I was playing the Revival tournament. And I really enjoyed the entire weekend. Cool people, everyone that I met there and talked with, played Pack Rush, played side events. Really enjoyable, and congratulations to Ravensburger for organizing the European Championships. And I hope I will also be there next year. Till next time, everyone, I'll be doing more videos, more deck breakdowns, doing live gameplay, live streams. So yeah, if you enjoyed this type of content, check it out. Thanks, and see you later.